All right, before we really dive in to start learning Excel, I would just want to do one really quick thing to make it easier for the rest of the videos to see what I'm working on. Let's go in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and you'll see the minus and plus button. That is the fast way to zoom in and zoom out of your spreadsheet. You can see that if you zoom out, at some point it goes so far back from the view that it looks all white, and you can see it's teeny tiny up there in the corner, all the way up to 400% zoom. And this is what I'll try and do for the remaining videos, is have it zoomed in close enough that you can see my examples really easily. So feel free to adjust the zoom on your own and follow along this way. So I have my spreadsheet zoomed in all the way to 400%, and you can see the cells are nice and big, easy to read. What I'd like you to do is follow along with me in this example and open up a blank new workbook and have a blank sheet, or just clearing out the cells that you had in here by clicking backspace with any numbers that you may have had in, and go to cell A1. So you'll notice that you have A1 selected when the highlighted region is green around A1, and you can verify here that this is A1. And let's go in and type in the number 3 and hit enter. And in cell A2, hit 5 and hit enter. Remember, when you hit enter, that brings you down a cell. And when you hit tab, that brings you over to the right. Okay, and I want to talk through what's going on here in Microsoft Excel, even with something as basic as a 3 and a 5. Now, this might seem very simple, but I think it's important that you really grasp the difference between 3, the number, and let's go to cell B1 and type in 3, the string of text, and hit enter, and go to cell B2 and type in the word 5. Now let's talk about some terminology. In cell A1, there is a variable created and it has a value of 3 and it is formatted as a number. In cell A2, there's a variable created, it has the value of 5, the number, and in cell B1, there's a new variable created and it has the value of 3 but as a string variable. Okay, and in cell B2, again, a new variable is created. It's a string variable with the letters FIVE. Okay, this is very important because in Microsoft Excel, you can do operations, mathematical operations to numbers, but you cannot do them to text. So we could put in this cell 3 plus 5 and give us 8. And if we tried to do that in cell B3, what's adding 3 plus 5, the text, it wouldn't know what to do with that, and I'll prove that here in a second. Now, there's more information being stored here behind the scenes that you can't see, and that's things like the formatting of the cell. So it's holding the number, but it's also holding the information about how the number should look. Right now it's right aligned against the right edge of the cell, and if we wanted to change that, we could go up here and click center, and we could go down to A2 and click center. And maybe we wanted to highlight both of these by clicking and dragging anywhere in the middle of the cell and clicking down and dragging. And we wanted to bold them for some reason. The value of 3 and 5 haven't changed. Just because they're bold doesn't make them more special or anything like that. They're just easier to see. And so if we added those two numbers, we would still get 8. But it's important to kind of think about the fact that Excel is holding information about this entire cell, that its number is 3, that the characters should be bolded, that they should be centered, that there's no color to fill in the cell. Those are all things that you can change or vary, that's variable, within the cell. Now this should look very similar, the next step we're going to do, just to what you learned in your algebra class. And to show you and demonstrate this, I'm just going to open up a blank screen here and do the exact same thing except in a Word document, if you will. And here's how we're going to set it up. You don't have to follow me for these steps, but I just want you to understand the logic. So this is what you would do if you were programming the exact same thing that you saw in Microsoft Word. Or if you were in an algebra class, you would say, I have this variable A, and I want to set it equal to 3. And I also have this variable B, and I want to set it equal to 5. And the operation I want to do with this is A plus B. Now, what is it? It doesn't matter if these are uppercase or lowercase. This is my computer just trying to correct me. you know that if we substitute 3 in for A, we substitute 5 in for B, that we would get A plus B equals 8. Okay? What makes this a variable is that we can go up to 3 and change it to 4, right? So then the new equation is 4 plus 5 equals 9. This is the exact same thing that's happening in Microsoft Excel. We've created a variable. We'll call it A. In our case, it's really A1. We've created another variable. We'll call it A2. And we've given it the value of 5. And we can do anything that we want with those two numbers. For the purposes of this first example, let's add them. We're going to talk a lot more about formulas later on in this class, but let's go ahead and do one right now. So hit the equal sign in cell A3. And we can do this in any cell we wanted to, but we'll just make it easy right here in A3. We'll hit equals, and we'll type in the letters A1, and then a plus sign, A2. Again, we'll talk about how these formulas work later on in the class. That's not important. I just want you to think about how before we had A plus B, we're writing the same thing again, except it's A1, the blue cell, plus A2, the red cell. And when we hit enter, it's going to give us, surprise, surprise, the value of 8 and right aligned. Now we could go back up here, click on cell A3 and make it centered if we wanted to. Now, here's the big test. If we go to cell B3 and hit equals, B1 plus B2. So again, these are two different variables. We've said I want the first variable plus the second variable. It just so happens now that this is a string, and Excel does not understand that this is the number 3, and it doesn't understand that this is the number 5. So what do you think is going to happen when you hit enter? Not good. So we talked about one of the data types in Microsoft Excel is an error value, and that's what we have received here. So we could go up and change the value of either one of these variables. We could change it to 4 and 6, and voila, our two numbers add up to 10. So this is why it's so important to understand data types and understand what's going on in each and every one of these cells within a worksheet. There's a lot of information being stored in each one of these cells, and it's important to think about that as we navigate the rest of the course. Let's take a look at what makes Excel extremely powerful. So let's just open up a new worksheet by hitting the plus button. We've done that before. And we have now gone back to the default settings at this sheet being at 100% zoom level. And let's go ahead and right click on sheet 2 or whatever the sheet name was for you and click delete so we get rid of that old one. It's going to ask us, are we sure we want to delete that? That's fine. There's no going back from that. Let's go down to the bottom right and zoom to 400% again, make the cells nice and big. And let's take a look at a new example where we go back to cell A1, type in 3 for a number, hit the tab key. We'll go over to cell B1 and we'll try out something called a cell reference. And this is called a relative cell reference. And we're going to do this by hitting the equal sign first. And then you can hit the left arrow over and you'll see that it will now highlight the region of A1 and it'll have little lines going across the top and right and bottom and so on. Now when we hit enter, I want you to think about what's going to happen. It's saying, give me the value equals of A1. So what do you expect to happen when we hit enter here? Well, we're going to get 3. Okay, remember, just like the problem we did before, we declared a variable here. We called it, or we gave it the value of 3, the number 3. And in cell B1, we did something extremely important in Excel, and that is we referred to or made a reference to another cell anywhere in the worksheet. We just so happen to be referencing cell A1 right now. And you can see in the formula bar, it'll say the formula or reference equals A1, but then display the value of 3. Okay, so what is going to happen when you go to cell A1 and change that from a 3 to a 5? All right, this is just like the math problem, except this time when we change, we're not adding two numbers, we're just changing one number. So we're changing this variable 3, which can vary, to a 5. And so we're going to hit 5. It'll replace the old value, and we're going to hit enter, and it recalculates here. It says, okay, give me the value of cell A1. Now A1 is 5, and so it's 5. I want you to get comfortable and familiar with this idea of a relative cell reference. You can try out different things below to make it feel a little bit more comfortable. Maybe just type in random numbers and then go to cell, let's try out C5 this time and do equals. And you can hit the left arrow twice and you'll get A5. It'll be the little brackets going around, and hit enter. Okay, it's going to give you the same value as what's in cell A5. This time in cell C6, let's do equals and let's type it in. So instead of hitting the left arrow over, let's type in A6. Okay, this time we didn't we didn't use the arrow keys, but we typed in the reference A6. It's a relative. We hit enter, and ta-da. One thing I see that is common with first-time users is a frustration with getting in and out of edit mode within the cell. So I want to point out something here, that if you want to change this from A6 or equals A6, you need to go up here and click on the formula bar, and from there you can go into edit mode. And you know you're in edit mode when you see the cursor blinking and the font is a little bit bigger here. It's showing the formula, and of course you've got the correct cell highlighted. When you hit enter, you're leaving the edit mode. You can also double click on any cell that has the formula, or just any cell in general. If you double click, you'll see the cursor start to come into focus and then go away, and that indicates that you're in edit mode. And you can hit escape to get out of edit mode, or again you can just click on any other cell. So to get in and out, there's a couple of different ways. Click up here in the formula bar, hit escape or enter, and you can double click the cell to enter the edit mode. You see the cursor blinking, and you can make changes here and hit enter to get out of the edit mode. So sometimes students will find themselves in edit mode and they'll go to click and they'll not get the expected results. Or they may have started to add something and realize that when they clicked over here, it's adding cells and they don't want that. They wish it would just stop adding things to their formula. You need to get out of edit mode first and hit escape or enter to do that. The final option is just to begin writing on top of an existing cell. So this says 32 right here. It's giving me a cell reference of A6, that is 32. But if I want to type in 100, I didn't have to hit anything to go into edit mode. I just typed 100 over the existing cell. I hit enter, and I've replaced the old cell. So this is the last technique to replace the content, and it does not require you to go into edit mode where you double click or you go up to the formula bar and click up here. There is one keyboard shortcut, but we'll cover that in a future section.